Batman: The Brave and the Bold, issue 1. Notably, though, we're only going to be looking at the Tom King and Mitch Gerads story. And do you know what the funny thing about this is that I should have been excited for this, but something about it being a story in an anthology book kind of made me not think about it, or like I knew I was going to read it. Don't get me wrong, but something about that distinction made me not think about it in the same way that I do when I'm building up to like a Danger Street issue 1 or a Strange Adventures issue 1 or whatever it is. And when I opened it and I looked at the first page, I went, "Oh, wait a minute, why have I not been thinking about this? Because this looks like it's going to be fantastic." And not to spoil anything, but it was fantastic. So
I have not felt this much tension through a comic in a very long time. Like, it's a sense of dread as the story keeps going.
Every time someone says, "Why are we still using the Joker?" Because you read an issue like this, and this is why you still use the Joker.
But what I love here is that it's definitely less is more, right? Like, most of Joker's panels are black with white text on them.
Well, I mean, specifically, it's like an old silent movie. It's like the dialogue in an old silent movie when it comes up on the screen. That's what it's meant to look like.
Right. And so, like, I don't feel like we get overexposed of the Joker here. You know?
No, he's a threat that the characters in the story don't understand yet, so no one knows to fear him.
And this is specifically set during year 1. They tell you that on the first page, right?
Just after, well, during year 1 in terms of the time frame, but I think if you're saying, if you're comparing,
not the story.
Yeah, it's set after the story of year 1, but it's set during the first year of Batman, if that makes sense.
And so the Gotham PD is still getting used to the idea of these costumed, bad guys. And so just the idea of Joker, like, no one has really encountered him yet.
No.
And so there's this sense of, like I said earlier, there's a sense of dread, and there's this high tension throughout. And like, I was sitting here reading it and getting ready for the show, and I lost track of time. Like, I got very wrapped up in this one.
Oh, it was so easy to get sucked out of the story in this one.
Yep.
It's obviously you have Gordon and some police going to this guy's house, and it doesn't reveal exactly why they're there at first, but as the scenes, as it comes back to those scenes and they talk about it, you realize, oh, this is this is basically this version, this story's version of Batman issue 1, where the Joker says, "I'm going to kill this guy at midnight," and that was in the Dark Knight as well, to an extent. It wasn't midnight in the movie, but it was a similar idea. Right. And they're here to try and protect him. And they're like, "Hey, the last time this Joker called in and said something, it wasn't real." And they even referenced that he was going to poison the reservoir, but it didn't happen. So that's like a direct connection to the end of year 1. But like, we can't really believe this is true. But obviously, if you know any version of that, like original, this is the Joker's first appearance story, like you're like, this guy's going to die, probably by poison as soon as it hits midnight. And sure enough, that's eventually what happens. But the way it ramps up to that, where they're not really taking it seriously, they think this is a waste of time. It's all excellent. It's all good stuff. On you go.
I was gonna say, and it's Gordon and the police reacting because they're like, "Okay, we'll go check the diamond," and they're like, "Well, it's not even a diamond. You could scratch it with glass. It's a piece of glass. You scratch it with your finger." And then they look over, and the dude's on the ground.
Yeah,
and he's bleeding, and then he ends up with a smile, and just the way that Gordon reacts and goes, "Why is he smiling?" That was, oh my God, that hit.
Well, yeah, but the thing you left out there is that it's supposed to be a real diamond. Like, part of the threat was that the diamond would be stolen. And then the reveal is that it's already been stolen and replaced with this fake one. And yeah, like that happens, and then the guy dies. And like you say, there's this like, why is he smiling moment with Gordon sort of like just crawling back in fear and being like, what the hell?
Right. And just knowing everything Joker puts Gordon through over the years, too, and this is his first taste of them. It's just like it was a holy cow moment for sure.
Yeah, and there's so much atmosphere in the art. Like it's like the entire book is like in pouring rain. There's just rain constantly.
There's rain, and then when it shifts to the room, it goes, because the rain's very like cold, right? It's using a lot of blues and greens and that type of stuff. And then when it shifts to the rooms, everything's warm. Like even where they're waiting with the diamond guy. And yeah, Gerads is really playing with the colors here.
Yeah, and when it jumps to what Batman's up to on this, Nick, because Batman's just chasing down a criminal who shot someone, his wife, by the sounds of it.
His wife during a domestic dispute, and And just I always love too when King writes cussing, because like I try to figure out what words they're trying to say. King doesn't really care. He just kind of puts,
Yeah,
has the letterer put stuff through, but it's still effective nonetheless.
yeah, the actual number of symbols doesn't matter. I just basically
No.
put in an F-bomb or the word
Uh-huh.
shit, whatever
Yep.
whatever sounds right in the context of the sentence,
But
basically.
on this one, you just get the vibe where that's all this guy's doing. He's in a
He's
full panic,
he's running on the train tracks in this train
Uh-huh.
yard, and he's shooting back to Batman. And Batman, they're treating Batman like this force of nature here, where he's just
Yep.
this silhouette coming after him.
Uh-huh.
It's guards and stuff, and the guy falls and hurts his leg, and he's on the tracks, and this train's coming, and he's begging Batman to save him. And obviously, we know Batman's not going to let him die, but this
Right.
guy doesn't know that. This is Batman's he's new on the scene. Everyone thinks he's
Right.
scary.
Well, he's yelling at him oh, you think you're big and scary? I'm from Gotham. You ain't nothing. And he's trying to big dog Batman, and Batman is still just taking his time, almost Michael Myers-esque as he's getting over to him as he's falling.
It's like his intro in the newer movie where he just walks out the shadows with the footsteps,
Yeah.
like the tunk, 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 tunk.
Yeah. And this guy's laying on the railroad tracks because his knees twisted or his ankles twisted or whatever. And then you start to see the light from the train, and we get the the sound of the train whistle, like the woo woo. And man, again, the tension, in the pacing. These two guys really know each other well.
And and
King Garrett's.
one of my favorite moments of the whole issue is when we come back to this scene later, and the train actually goes, Batman either pushes him or the guy just gets free himself, but the
Right.
train is coming between them, and you get those horizontal panels, and it's the trains going past, and you get the sound effect the entire time of the
Yep.
of the right,
Uh-huh.
and you just see Batman between the cars as it's going past. Talk about pacing and atmosphere in a scene, and just this guy looking back and seeing Batman, and also just waiting patiently to come and get him before he chases him again. It's so good stuff. And the guy's saying, I deserve justice. I defended myself. My wife was going to kill me. I deserve justice. And then the full page spread of Batman just kicking him in the face and saying, yes, you do.
Yep. Boot to the face. Boom.
It's so it's wonderful stuff. And this is before we even get to the Joker subplot of the issue, which is, so this dad's frantically calling because his daughters went missing. And we then see this daughter just in the park with her umbrella in the rain, and this is what you were saying earlier, the silent movie captions of that's what the Joker's dialogue up until we see him is all just in these silent movie captions, and it comes back later as well, but that's at first, because it takes you a second where she's talking to someone, and it's that classic kid talking to a stranger. They don't know they're in danger, but they should know that they should be terrified.
And the fact that there's a balloon, I'm sure there's parallels to it, and I'm sure that's on with a clown and a balloon.
Yeah, I was going to say, Joker's a way better character than Pennywise. That movie.
I mean, yeah, but I'm just saying, there's the little kid that doesn't, like you said, the little kid doesn't realize they're in danger, and they're just talking about everything to this stranger because they have a misplaced sense of trust. And it's when she's rambling all these questions to him, and he's giving the answers, but when she says, why is your skin white like that? And he starts talking about how he, fell into acid and, did it hurt and all this. And it's so creepy. It made my skin crawl reading his answers because I know he's talking to a kid.
Yeah, he's asking, do you want to hear a joke? And she's just saying, oh, is it about a dinosaur? I like dinosaur jokes.
Yep.
And whatever. It's all very innocent, and the art's so good here, and her eyes are wide. She's excited to talk to this weird guy. But I think the effect that this silent movie style dialogue has, where it's these just black panels with the classic font of her talking back. I think what it does in effect is that it lets you know that in the way, to get a little I don't know, artsy here in my analysis,
Hoity-toity,
right? But I think it lets you know that Joker as a force is something that's coming into this world that feels like, we always talk about how Batman is theatrical, right? And he puts on this theatrical idea to have a presence, to scare people, whatever. And this idea that film, when it entered into the world, was this new thing. It was this new medium. It was this thing that people didn't quite understand at first, and it was this new spectacle. I think the idea of introducing the Joker here with these silent movie style captions it's almost like he is something out of a movie that this kid would never expect to be a real danger because, oh, he looks like a movie character, or the world's not ready for someone. Like, we think Batman's theatrical, Joker's out of a horror movie, and you're not prepared for like how much he's going to change this world.
It's a different kind of theatrical. Batman's almost like stage theatrical, and then Joker is like one-upping that to where it's not just the stage, it's film, and there's going to be some broken expectations here, because she even asks about him being a clown,
Yeah. Then you get that full page spread where you finally see him, after a couple of pages, and he's sitting on the bench in the rain holding the purple balloon, and she's just sitting there talking to him, and you're scared, and you get that full page silent movie screen where it just says, "I also have a knife, but you can't have it yet." And you're like in the same way that Riddler one shot was phenomenal and did so much to make the Riddler scary. This is doing it for Joker, but Joker arguably is the one that's supposed to be even scarier because he's this like unpredictable psychopath.
Right. With Riddler, what makes him scary is he's smarter than you and he knows it.
Yes.
Right. Like he's gonna trick you. Joker is just like, I hate saying it like that as a force of nature, but he's an equal force of nature as Batman is.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So. It's along the same lines. They both instill the same kind of fear, but for different reasons. With Joker's very much the unknown. Like when Batman's rushing at you, you're like, oh, I'm catching a beating. When Joker's rushing at you, he could literally do anything. So, the knife line made by Skin Crawl for real. Like, I'm gonna have to hit them up on Twitter. Be like, thanks for the nightmare, you two.
Yeah. And there's even a little bit of that. Dark Knight style Joker where he's talking about his accident. He says he looks back on it and laugh. It was hard not to think about, now I see the bright side. Now I'm always smiling. Obviously they're both classic Joker examples, but and that's where you get the Tom King art. It was where you see Joker has drawn things
on his
and that's what we're seeing. But we didn't even mention there's the part of like Bruce Wayne's throwing a party at the manor and he's out being Batman whilst this rich guy's wanting to talk to him.
Who I get has mob ties from the way that he's talking about Bruce and
everything he set up here about wanting to speak to Bruce, I all felt like plot set up that'll be relevant down the line. But what's so good about it is that it was basically just establishing this as the early days of Batman where he's juggling the Bruce Wayne persona a little bit, and it's setting up plot stuff for later without feeling like it's just doing exposition, which really nice.
So the guy has to talk to Bruce, and then Alfred covers for him. Is like, oh, he's had a reaction to the shrimp. He's away up in the restroom, and the guy's I'm thinking like quick talking type. He's like, oh no, he drank too much. He's a lightweight. He can't handle the Prince of Gotham and all this stuff. This guy doesn't know that Batman just chased down a dude and kicked the crap out of him at a train track, So, and then when Bruce does show up and just kind of disarms this guy with words about, Alfred knows how to protect me.
It's also a very strong like break in tension because it goes from the guy dying at the garden, scene to this party, and it's basically like a break in the tension because you're seeing like, oh, here's all the hoity-toity in Gotham at Bruce's party in the manor, and how separate they feel. They don't care about the rest of this world that's going on, So,
well, it is. It's kind of that scene in The Dark Knight again, where right before the Joker shows up at the party with Rachel and Harvey, they're all just kind of there.
Yeah, it's almost like they're not. The reason why we're seeing this happy party is because they're not prepared for how their world's even going to change because of the Joker.
Right.
So I'm interested, and then obviously the big climax of the Joker stuff is he takes the girl home to her scared dad who's been looking for her and phoning the police, and he's happy to see her, and she's like, oh, I'm just happy you're safe, and she's trying to say, no, this man found me, he calls himself Joker and he brought me back to you, and the guy tries to shake his hand and Joker just pulls out his knife and stabs him in front of his child. It's like so dark and vicious. And it does this thing where earlier on, when he was offering the balloon to the little girl, she talked about how she had a balloon before, but she let go of it and it went all the way up into the sky.
Her and her
And
dad watched it, watched the sky eat it,
yeah,
basically.
and it disappeared.
Yeah.
And he made her promise to not let go, and she promised that no, she won't let that happen again. She's learned, her lesson. She'll never let that happen again. But of course, seeing her dad be murdered and the blood dripping from the knife, she lets go of the balloon. So the end of the issue, and it is a beautiful final page, is the balloon just going up to the sky as we get just the silent movie panels sort of interspersed saying ha 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 ha, and as the balloon disappears in the final panel, the bat signal comes on in the sky. Like,
Oof.
perfection.
So good.
Absolute like the storytelling, like I just sometimes I read a comic like this and I'm like, why are so many comics just alright? Like why isn't there more doing stuff like this?
I get it, and it reminded us of our conversation last week where I said like I'm okay. I like when a comic is just okay. Like it makes me excited to read it, like The Flash or whatever.
Yeah.
And because then it makes this feel that much better. Right? Like
sure. They can't all be special. I know. But...
Right. I'm reading it and I am so tired of Joker. I'll be the first, Joker decrier. And I was one of those people when this was announced, I was like, oh, come on. But then, like, I trust Garrett when he talks, because I follow him on social media, and he's like, look, I get it. People are tired of Joker. I'm tired of Joker. But just read this before you guys have an opinion, please. I'm working something very scary. And he kept saying scary, right? And they did it because, Joker in this, because I took it that he stabbed the little girl, and that's why she let go of the balloon, too. But maybe I just think that Joker is that much more of a monster than the art suggested, right? But
I'm looking at it now. I never thought he stabbed her. I still like if it reveals next issue that he did, like I wouldn't say it feels out of place, but I didn't get that impression from that page that he did stab her.
Right.
If anything, I think the Joker is more evil than that, and that he's laughing that this girl is watching her dead dad, kind of thing.
Right.
But, I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if he did stab her either.
No, and that's what I'm saying. So the art, to me, I interpret it. He also killed the little girl because he's that much a monster. But it's it could just be revealed that no, now she doesn't have a dad, and that's the joke.
Yeah, and also that final page, the silent movie panels. There's because it's a 9-panel grid, right? And it's the up, down, left, and right that are the silent movie panels. They start to deteriorate as if the film's breaking down. So the last one's really distorted and like as if it's like burning out, and that's almost like, oh, he's not just a movie character anymore. Now he's in the real world. Like
he's jumped,
him stabbing that dad is him coming into the real world, which is a fascinating little bit of subtext. It's honestly this was wonderful. Like I think part of me always likes the idea that you have like this great sort of lineage of like good Batman stories that you can give to someone. Say, okay, you start with year one, and typically after that you can read Batman the Monster Men and Batman versus the Mad Monk, right, which are set soon after year one.
Yeah. And
then I'd say go to Long Halloween. Like it thrills me with the idea that I can say to someone, oh, here's like, I mean, don't get me wrong, Batman Who Laughs, or Batman the Man Who Laughs, which is the Ed Brubaker version of the first Joker story, was pretty good. This might supersede it by the time it's done if it keeps up this quality, where I'll say, no, this is what you read after year one. This is how Joker enters the picture.
Right.
By my sort of headcanon now.
Yeah, that's why always the thing that resonated me with from Batman Begins with Joker and Batman was at the end where the Joker card's revealed, and then Gordon gives him that speech on escalation, and here's now that escalation in comic book form, right? Batman shows up, and now Joker has showed up, and
that's maybe the tricky thing about doing the story of like the first time the Joker really like does stuff in Gotham is that you are competing with, like, Ed Brubaker did a version, you're competing with the Golden Age stuff, obviously. You're competing with stuff like The Dark Knight, because especially since Batman Begins is very much the year one of that movie franchise, so that means that Dark Knight is effectively what this is kind of,
right,
also doing its own version of. But, of course, it's a comic book, it's more focused, it doesn't have to set up, all the Two-Face stuff, it doesn't have to do all these other things. Right. And Batman's presence in this is so atmospheric and brooding, but by the time you get to the end of the story, Joker's way scarier in a very different way. Right. And that signal coming out at the end with the balloon going out of the sky is just chef's kiss. Just
yep. And the film, I didn't even realize that when I read it, the film deterioration, right? Because I got so not distracted, but I focused so much on the bat signal with the balloon that, so again, those are two both ways to, end the story, with a bang.
And they are, we talked about the rain and the colors and how it separates each scene with different color tones. But then even just in the faces, obviously, they're very expressive. The smiling of the little girl, the evil looks on Joker, the silhouette stuff with Batman. But the faces as well, like even like the smarmy rich guy that's looking for Bruce at the party, he's got such a good sneer. And there's one panel where he's kind of like, he's doing like he's got his tongue like in front of his upper teeth. And you sort of get just the tone of what he's saying from the art. It's so good. And even Alfred like raising an eyebrow in one panel to be like be smarmy Alfred, but without even uttering a single line of dialogue. It's
right.
Like the art is absolutely gorgeous and it tells the story so effectively. Like this like this is worth the $8 just to read this story. And then read the rest if you want. Like whatever, but it's worth it for this story.
I mean, I want to go and read the Superman story, right? But
sure.
Yeah.
I'm not saying don't. Like, by all means, like go for it.
But like after this, it's kind of like, okay, well, the gauntlet's been thrown. How do you follow this?
I'm curious though, because if this is only 3 parts, then it's probably going to be a similar length to that Riddler one shot, because that Riddler one shot was about 60-70 pages. Yeah. So this will be effectively just maybe a few, like maybe 10 or 20 pages longer by the time it's done. So, interesting. So,
Did we get a title for this story?
That's a good question. Yeah, there's a title in the opening table of contents. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't notice it.
I'm cycling back. I should have probably.
Me too.
I should have probably just
race.
Went the quick way, but whatever.
The winning card.
There you go, the winning card.
Oof, that's a great title. So.
Yeah, I can't praise it. Honestly, I can't praise it enough. Yeah. It's whatever. For some reason, writers named Tom do very well on our reviews.
Well, and I think that DC kind of lets them do what they want at this point, right? Like, no one needed another Joker story, but when Tom King goes, hey, me and Garrett want to do a Joker story, I think they're just like, okay, there's enough trust in him. And same with Tom Taylor probably wanting to do Titans. Like, I'm sure they want to do a Titans book, right? DC wants to be publishing one of those. But when Tom Taylor comes to you with, like, I want to spend it out of Nightwing, I feel like they have enough goodwill built up at the company that you just trust them to let them do what they need to. So.
Yeah. No, this is phenomenal. Exceptional art, exceptional build to the Joker as a character. Yep. Exceptional pacing. And serialized storytelling. I really can't praise it enough. So, Matt, what are you giving? Not the whole book, obviously, because we're not look at the rest, but just this Brave and the Bold story, part 1. What are you giving it?
I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna give it a 10.
I am also gonna give it a 10.
Yeah, I can't find fault with anything in the story. I really can't. It's basically
perfect.